Hello, my dear friends. You're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine. I'm not telling that today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 17th of April, because we won't do this today. Today is the Easter. I'm sure that some of you are Catholics, some of you are Orthodox, maybe some Muslims, and so on. So I think that we should respect each other. Today is a very big holiday for Catholics. So I don't want to discuss today victims, crimes, kills, death, frontline wars, battles, and so on. I planned to prepare these materials long time ago, but I couldn't find time when it's better to present this material to you. And as far as I understand, this is the best time when I can tell you something. Tell you something very important. Very important. The information I'm planning to provide you today may change your mind regarding this war, regarding this conflict. And I'm sure that it will change your mind. The thing that I'll tell you today is something new for you. I'm sure about this. But this is not something new for these territories. Today we will speak about something very important. About something really important. And you won't be able to get this information from any other sources. So let's start. I'll repeat myself. Today we won't discuss any battlefields, any front lines, attacks, and so on. Today we will discuss something more important in this war. Let's start from the 2014. In 2014, there was a state of Ukraine. We can see the state and today. The population of Ukraine in 2014 mainly consisted of Ukrainians, Russians, Belarusians, Jewish, Tatars. All these people used Ukrainian and Russian language to communicate. We can say that 50% of population spoke Ukrainian and 50% spoke Russian. In the 17th century, there was such kingdom called Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and in Russian it calls like Речь Посполитая. This state included the territories of such modern countries as Poland, Ukraine, Belarus, and Baltic states. In 2014, after unconstitutional coup d'etat in Ukraine, nationalists came to power here in Kiev. One of the first laws they adopted was the law on the status of the Russian language and the Russian-speaking population. From the first days of its rule, the nationalist regime began to infringe on the rights of the Russian-speaking population. In the middle of 17th centuries, two denominations of the same religion dominated the territory of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth: Catholics and Orthodox. By the middle of the 17th century, the Catholics managed to completely oust the Orthodox from the political life of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. In 2014, the residents of Donbas did not agree with the Kiev's policy toward the Russian language and the Russian-speaking population, these republics. They did not agree with the unconstitutional coup in Kiev, as a result of which Ukrainian nationalists came to power. After the power in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was completely seized by the nobility of the Catholic faith, the Orthodox nobility was angry that not a single representative of them remained in the power. They did not want to change their Orthodox faith to Catholic, and I am speaking about this region. After the residents of Donbass realized that in 2014 that Kiev regime was not going to listen to them, they decided to create self-government bodies, create their own government, create their own Russian language education on the territory of Ukraine. Thus began the civil war in Ukraine. This is two republics, and I repeat myself, thus began the civil war in Ukraine. In the middle of 17th century, when Polish Catholic magnates began to take the lands of Orthodox magnates without trial, the Orthodox population united around the Bogdan Khmelnytsky, thus began the civil war on the territory of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This is the territory where this civil war began, on the south, on the current Ukraine territory, on the current Donbass area where the current civil war began. In the 2014, the Donbas republics demanded to recognize their rights to self-determination, the rights to use the Russian language. Ukrainian troops attacked Kramatorsk and Slaviansk, these two towns, attacked territories controlled by the new republics. As a result of serious battles, Ukrainians received the Eloise cauldron. It was on the south from Donbass. As I repeat myself, Ukrainians received the Eloise cauldron and was completely defeated and was forced to withdraw the defense position. The defense position was around town named Donetsk, around this territory. So as we can see, this border is the same border that was established in 2014, almost the same. Thus ended the first stage of the war. In the middle of the 17th century, the Polish state did not recognize the right of the Orthodox to self-determination and sent its troops to the territory where there was an uprising. So Polish kingdom sent their forces to the south, to the southeast of Ukraine, of the modern Ukraine. The Poles formed a 40,000 army and were completely defeated on the territory of Ukraine. They were completely defeated here. Thus ended the first stage of the war. At the beginning of the 2015, the Donbas republics knocked out the enemy from Donetsk airport. This is his territory. And from the Debaltseve. Debaltseve is in this area, somewhere here. Ukraine has received another defeat. At that moment, France, Germany, and United Kingdom and the United States of America took the side of Ukraine. As a result of this stage of military operation, Donbas republics emerged in a political area of the world. The Minsk agreements appeared. Thus ended the second stage of the war. By the beginning of May 1649, Poland and the rebels had completed preparation for a new stage of the war. Polish troops again launched an offensive, but were defeated by Ukrainian army. By this time, Tatars and princes from the Grand Duchy of Lithuania had come out on the side of Poland, which forced the young Ukrainian state to negotiate. This stage of war ended with the Peace of Zborsky. It was an analog of Minsk agreements. According to the Minsk agreements in 2015, we had stopped the war, hold local elections, to hold an amnesty, conduct of exchange of prisoners of war, restore the integrity of Ukraine, to carry out the constitutional reform of Ukraine. According to those peace agreement, the Zborsky peace agreement in 17th century, we had creation of autonomy of within Ukraine. This was about the autonomy of Ukraine. The power belongs to the local state, and there was holding of an amnesty. So we can say that, of course, today we have 21st century, there was 17th century, but to tell the truth, it was almost the same agreements between two parties. Let's move next. Neither Ukrainian or Donbas have completed with a single point of these agreements. Everyone was preparing for a new stage of war. Ukraine began to actively cooperate with NATO countries, imposed the most severe sanctions against this region, Donbas region. Ukraine was building up offensive weapons in the Donbas and was preparing plans to seize Donbas by military means. By this time, the war in Syria and Afghanistan had ended, which allowed NATO to concentrate on preparing Ukraine for war with the Donbas republics. In 1651, the Polish kingdom began third campaign against the rebels. By this time, the 7-year war in Europe was ended and mercenaries from all over Europe poured into Poland. It was Italian, Germans, Switzerland mercenaries. At that time, Poland was very actively conducting military operations against the Ukrainian autonomy. In 2022, the Donbas republics realized that they could not stand against Ukrainians without the help of an ally. They were forced to turn to Russian Federation for help. The Russian Federation recognized these republics and sided with them in the war against Ukraine. Thus began a special military operation on the territory of Ukraine. In the middle of 17th century, the Ukrainian autonomy realized that it could not cope on its own against Poland, and they were forced to turn to the Russian kingdom for help. The Russian kingdom accepted Ukrainian as a part of its state. Thus began a special military operation of the Russian kingdom on the territory of the Polish kingdom. Russian-Polish War resulted in the left bank Ukraine became part of the Russian kingdom. This was marked the beginning of the collapse of the Polish kingdom, which almost 100 years later ceased to exist. This war marked the beginning of the revival of the Russian state, and after 100 years the Russian Empire was one of the strongest states in the world. The goals that Russia has set in this war are the liberation of Donbas republics and the destruction of the hegemony of the US and Europe authorities around the world. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching, subscribe my channel, and enjoy your weekend.